Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
All right, we're back, and it is Wooden Sticks, and we are recording from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. The end of the hockey season is upon us. We're down to the final week. We are recording this on the eve of the Masters, and if you're a sports fan, this is one of the better seasons on the calendar. We just wrapped up both men's and women's college basketball with some fantastic drama and coaches melting down. It was terrific. Men's and women's basketball, great stuff. The Frozen Four continues this weekend in Vegas. Officially, my picks are going to be North Dakota to get by Wisconsin, even though I am really good friends with Mike Hastings, the Wisconsin coach. He has done a remarkable job with the Badgers, and it would be really cool to see them win. I think North Dakota, though, is playing at a super high level. And then the other matchup is as good as it gets. And it's just remarkable to me that Denver, year in and year out, even though during the regular season they don't look like a national championship contender, and on paper it looks like Michigan is this just runaway train with the talent, the speed, and the skill. I got to pick Denver to upset the Wolverines. So I'm going to go Denver and North Dakota in the final. And, yep, I'm going to Denver Pioneers to get it done. So hockey fans, celebrate the Frozen Four. I'm certain we've got some listeners here to the podcast that are traveling out that way this week and might be listening on the airplane now as we speak. Enjoy Vegas. It's a great place for the Frozen Four. Awesome venue, and the hockey's going to be terrific with the Blue Bloods all assembling for that championship. The Wild are rolling, 4 straight wins. Got one last night. We worked the game at home as they beat Seattle. They've got the showdown in Dallas, which maybe has already happened by the time you're listening to this. But and then we close out the season with games in Nashville, at St. Louis, and then home to Anaheim. It's going to be Dallas and Minnesota. We've known that for months. I think the Wild are going to end up on the road. Maybe they find a way to get past Dallas, even though the Stars own the tiebreaker. And I'm okay if they start on the road. I think the Wild are almost a more comfortable team away from home. My biggest concern in the final week here is, can they get some guys some rest? Can they stay healthy? And, the goaltending thing is an interesting conversation. I think Gus is going to get the net for game 1, no matter what happens here in the final couple of games. But the way that Jesper Wallstedt is playing right now, at least has to give John Hines pause that this guy could be a factor too. And there's nothing wrong with playing 2 goalies within a series, within a playoff run. And if it's going to be a run, if you're going to make a decent push to win a cup, you're going to have to win 4 series. You're going to have to win 16 hockey games. And I just truly believe that Jesper Wallstedt is coming of age. And we know who Philip Gustafsson is. He's a terrific goalie. These 2 guys have the best combined save percentage in the National Hockey League. So that is an asset for the Minnesota Wild. And I understand the consternation because Gus in the last couple of starts just hasn't been A-plus Gus. But understand that he's played on big stages like the Olympics, like the Four Nations, and like playoff hockey. He played well, very well in that series last year against the Golden Knights. So I think it's going to be a tough call. I think Gus is going to get the net to start the series. It would not surprise me if both guys contribute, and I think the series likely goes 6 or 7. As I've said all along, Dallas is a tough matchup for the Wild. Frankly, they're a tough matchup for anybody. They have a world-class goalie in Jake Onger. He is so good. And they have the special teams, to me, that really matter in the playoffs. Their penalty kill and power play is consistently in the top 2 or 3 in the league. And when you've watched this matchup, when the Wild play Dallas, that is the matchup that the Wild have got to figure out. The Stars are 4 for 8, 50% on the power play against the Wild. So keep an eye on that. Understand that the Wild did some upgrading at the deadline. Players like Nick Foligno and Michael McCarron are big-time upgrades on that penalty kill. On the faceoff circle, more importantly, blocking shots and clogging things up. I think they're going to play significant roles in this series if the Wild are going to come out on top. And I have picked the Wild to win it. I also believe the winner of this series will represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup, and I'm sticking with it. I don't like what I'm seeing in Colorado right now, and I know on paper they're the best team. I don't like the trends right now. You got Makar dealing with a serious injury. He'll be back in time for the playoffs. He's going to play. There's no doubt about that, but I don't know if he's 100%. They've got other players banged up. They've got goaltending I don't trust, and they just have played not like the Colorado Avalanche down the stretch. I'm not sure you can flip the switch. They're a great team. They're going to probably mop the floor with whoever they play in the first round. However, if it is Nashville, and by the way, look out for the Preds, because Andrew Brunette, the bench boss, and his guy Darby Hendrickson alongside have got that team back from the dead, and they beat Anaheim on Tuesday night and beat them soundly 5-0, and they are firmly now in a position where they have a chance to claim that second wildcard spot, which means they'll play the Avalanche. And UC Saros, their goaltender, I believe in his career, is 9-4-1 with a save percentage up over 93% against the Avalanche. So that is something that is super interesting if it plays out that way. Now, to the meat and potatoes of the day, we are going to talk golf on a hockey show. I know. Wooden sticks, we're moving to the sticks that we put in a bag and lug on the golf course because we are privileged today to be joined by a rock star golfer, homegrown in the state of Minnesota from Inver Grove Heights. She is Isabella McCauley. She goes by Bella. Played in the state tournament for back in the day for Simley, plays for the Golden Gophers, has played at Augusta in the Augusta National Women's Am. This kid is an absolute stud on the golf course. And I know you're going to love the conversation today as we break it all down, talk Masters golf, talk about her career, give you some great restaurant touts, little coffee tout included. You're going to love this kid. She is so enchanting. She's just awesome. So stay tuned for that. Before we get to Bella, here are the people that make this show go. And I'm going to start at the top of the list with my good friend John Schweitz. He represents Minnesota Masonic Charities, and they do awesome work. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz. Also, the good people at Onyx Fish and Onyx Maps.
If you like to hunt or fish, I highly recommend checking out onyxmaps.com. Check it out for onyxmaps.com/hunt or onyxmaps.com/fish. Stop fishing the same lake because it's the only one you know. Onyx Fish lets you filter lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential so you can make a smarter call on where to spend your Saturday before you ever hitch up the trailer. It's only $34.99 for the year, less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season.
And it's almost time to get back on the boat, folks. So thank you to Onyx. And, of course, our friends at Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. Here on the Talk North Podcast Network, it is a little Masters preview with Bella McCauley from the Golden Gophers, and it's next. All right, folks, welcome back to Wooden Sticks. As always, we are recording from the Aquarius Home Services Studio here on the Talk North Podcast Network. My name is Kevin Gorg. Appreciate your patronage. We are going to get into the golf. It's Masters Week. You guys know from listening to this show that I am way deep into the golf thing. And why not talk to a rock star golfer that's homegrown here in Minnesota? She is Bella McCauley. She plays for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. And by the way, she's played at Augusta. Bella, welcome to Wooden Sticks.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, we got to start off with just in Minnesota, you know, our golf season is certainly smaller than it is in the southern states. You got to make the hay while the sun's shining. We get maybe 5 good months of golf weather. How did you get to this level? Division One. I looked at your accolades on the Gopher Sports website. You are legitimately an incredibly talented golfer, but not easy to do growing up in this state. So how did you do it?
Yeah, for sure. I get asked that a lot actually. So I'm from Minnesota, born and raised just outside the Twin Cities area in Inver Grove Heights, and been there all my life. My dad actually got me started at a really young age of 6. He used to teach golf, so he just really wanted to get my sister and I into the game and for us to love it as much as he did. So we both started pretty young, and then as we kind of got older, we just started loving it for ourselves. And my ideal day in the summer would be getting dropped off at the golf course for 5-7 hours, and it was kind of like babysitting out there. I think the course kind of babysat us, but it was so fun, and so we just kind of fell in love with the sport. But for me, that like the Minnesota winters were just kind of a normal part of our day to day, and I kind of always tried to look at it as a positive. With summer golf, you're really trying to focus on results and playing and shooting the best scores you can. But obviously, as golfers know, there's a component of constantly like working on your game and making your swing better. And I think winter's a really good time to do that without constantly focusing on results during that time. So I've always tried to look at it as a positive, and I think you just have to be more intentional with the time.
And I'm a lot older than you, and so a lot of the options that you guys have available to you now, I didn't have growing up in the 70s and 80s. And one of those things, and I watch TGL once in a while, but simulators have become a real thing here in the last decade. How much do you get to do that as a Division I golfer? How much does it help you? How realistic is it? And how available are simulators to a Division I golfer in the winter?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's funny for me is I actually really didn't use simulators a ton growing up. Um, One, it wasn't as common, but also I really feel like I'm a field player more than anything, more than an analytical side of things. So for me, growing up, I kind of just tried to steer away from some of the simulator stuff. As I've gone older into college, it's helped me with just kind of dialing in distances before tournaments, or sometimes we go to places with like different altitude changes, and so you can adjust that on TrackMan, and that can be helpful, or just like games and stuff. So I kind of try to use it for that, but I do think it's you can kind of make yourself a little crazy if you analyze it a little too much. Everyone's swing is different, and it can be harder if you're just not seeing the ball flight. And so as a field player, I know a lot of other people have mentioned this as well. It's just definitely a balance of, using the technology. It's there to help you, but also not letting it drive you crazy.
So let's go back to when you were little. You said you mentioned you started when you were around 6 or 7 years old. What were some of the first golf courses here in the Metro that you got to play, and maybe your first 18, because that's always a big step when you're maybe a little older?
Yeah, I think so. I grew up playing Rich Valley Golf Course in Rosemont, which it isn't there anymore,
Yep.
but that's where my sister and I grew up all the time. And then we've been at Southview the last
Oh,
like 7 years or so. So that's been really fun. That's a really great golf course. I think my first 18 hole was maybe Pebble Creek in a tournament or something. And I think I was maybe 8-9 years old, and that probably tore me up. I was probably used to 9 holes, and I think I shot maybe just under 120 or something. It was not a good day.
well, I got to tell you, Southview struck a chord for me. I'll tell you quickly my backstory in golf. I'm the son of a club pro. My dad was the golf professional at the Faribault Golf and Country Club for 42 years. We grew up in Burnsville, went to high school there. I played hockey there, played golf there, and at St. Thomas. Not to your level, not even close. But my point is this: I was a caddy for many, many years, including caddying for my dad. And the Tape Mark Charity Tournament was the big tournament at Southview every year. And so I got to caddy. And, part of the job of being a looper is you got to read the greens. And I will tell you right now, I've been all over the state of Minnesota. The best greens I've been on in my time, fastest greens, maybe, thinking about Augusta this week and the Masters, maybe the closest simulator to what you see at Augusta, the greens at Southview. So it doesn't surprise me that you've played there for the last 6 or 7 years and really taken your game to the next level, because having caddied there, having played there, it's a spectacular golf course.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it's been really a treat growing up there playing, and like you said, the greens are pretty tricky, and even just around the greens with chipping, so that's been really helpful. Really just dialing in like approach shots and short game has been really helpful out there. But how have you played when you've played out there?
Back when I used to play a lot more golf, and now I work out of Canterbury in the summer, so really my weekends I'm at the racetrack doing the TV thing. But I had a couple really good rounds there, and then a couple times I played in the Tape Mark tournament, and I just put myself in some bad spots. I can't remember if it was 10 or 1, but it was an uphill second shot, and if you went over the green, there was no way of stopping the ball. I think I made an 8, and I think it took me 6 shots to get up and down from just over the green. It was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, that's hole one, and it can be not the easiest way to start out your round. That is for sure.
So when did you know, like at what age, as you were, starting at a young age and certainly had a passion for it, at what age did you kind of figure out like, hey, I can do this at a high level. I could be maybe a state tournament golfer in Minnesota, maybe even a college golfer. Goodness gracious, I could be a Division I golfer. When did that light bulb go on for you?
Yeah, I think I really probably fell in love with golf when I was 10 years old or so. So a couple years after my dad had got me into it. And I really I fell in love with the practice side of things, and that was really fun for me. But I also can be kind of competitive, so I loved playing in tournaments. And then I think when I was 12, I won a tournament for it was kind of an end of the year summer tournament for 13 to 15-year-olds in Minnesota, and I won it as a 12-year-old. So I think that was maybe something that like kind of was a light bulb going off in my head of that I just really loved competing, and that I would maybe be able to play this at another level. I think in women's golf, there's a lot of opportunities to play in college. So that was something I've always been really thankful for, and definitely a goal of mine from a younger age.
So when you were little and you were watching golf, I remember when I was a little kid, I knew I was going to be a hockey player. And so I had these posters on my wall, and I idolized these certain players. I was a goalie, so I always migrated to that position. Were there golfers you grew up watching where you're like, I want to be like her, I want to be like him? And I know you grew up in an era where Tiger Woods was probably still a thing, but I'm curious if you had other mentors or players you looked up to.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one for me, her name is Amy Olson.
Yep.
She's from North Dakota, played on the tour for a while, and she played on the tour during the time I was in high school. Um, yeah, probably like most of the time I was in high school and even a little into college, I believe. So, she played on the tour for a while. I've actually had the opportunity to play with her before and just, be on the golf course. Obviously, she's an incredible player. She's just an even better person, and just was really well respected on tour, really well liked. You could just tell everyone really respected her in the way she carried herself. So I've always really admired her. She's from here in the Midwest, so definitely someone I've looked up to from a young age.
So you get to high school. I know you played for Simley, and you guys were a state tournament participant back in 2019. In fact, you finished, I believe, third that year. That feels like an awful lot of pressure for a young kid. I went out and watched my nephew a few years ago. He played for Lakeville North, and I got to walk 18 holes with my nephew, Nick. And I was so nervous just as his uncle watching him play, and it was quiet. And, you're out there and it's tense, right? You're with your fellow competitors. They've all got their entourage, their family and stuff walking with them. How did you handle that kind of pressure, and how much fun was it to have that kind of success?
It was just really fun. I mean, I think in everything, all athletes, at any level really understand the nerves. I mean, you could be a recreational golfer going out to play 9 and in a skins game or something, and you got a putt to win. I think you're feeling a little pressure there too. So I think in anything you're feeling nerves, and I think it's just more about how you embrace it. And I think what separates really good athletes from like the elite is just how they handle the nerves and really embracing it. So for me, I've always really tried to do that and just be excited for those moments. That's kind of what that's what your preparation is for. All the practice is for some of those moments. So for me, I've always really tried to embrace it, and it's always been really fun for me too, because just with a lot of like families or golf is really big in my family. So they've always loved watching, and I've just had a really good support system with that too. So that's been really fun for me.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I want you to look back at your high school career. And as I'm talking here, I'm going to ask you about your most proud or most favorite round of golf you played as a high school golfer. And why I'm asking you this question is I have a lifelong best friend named Mike Luckraft. He's the head golf pro right now at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. We've been friends for 50 plus years. And I marvel at high level golfers, how they can tell me about a round they had 6, 8, 10, 12 years ago. And Mike can like go shot by shot. And I'm like, this is insane, but he can do it. And so knowing that you're a high level golfer, and I never got to that level, take me back to maybe your best round, favorite round as a high school golfer. And we'll see if you and Lucky have that in common, where you can recite some of the great things you did.
I think a lot of golfers have that in common. For me, my favorite round I had during my time in high school, I played in the U.S. Open qualifier my junior year and actually qualified for the U.S. Open that year. So the way it works is it's a 36-hole qualifier, and I played decent the first round, and the second round I really played good, especially on the back nine. It started getting windier and stuff, and I kind of knew I needed to make a couple birdies coming in. So I believe if anyone's played Somerset in Mendota Heights, it was there. So I think it was like hole 12, the par 5. I holed out for eagle there. And then I made a really good, I think I bogeyed the next hole, but made a solid par on 14, and then made a 30-footer on 15, the par 3 for birdie, and then parred 16. And again, like, it was getting windy, so scores were definitely a little higher too. So parred 16, the par 5, 17, made a putt from off the green, probably 18 feet or so for birdie, and then made an 8-foot par putt on the last hole for par to qualify and not force a playoff, not have to be in a playoff. So yeah, that was probably one of my favorite rounds. It was just such a surreal moment. So for me, that was amazing.
So many memorable moments as you took me through the back nine. I mean, it almost has to feel when a couple of those things happen, Bella, like it just might be your day. And when you're a young kid, right, you can kind of ride that wave. It's funny, in all sports, there's a wave of momentum that can happen, positive or negative. And it feels like that particular day, you just kind of rode the wave. What did you end up shooting?
I think I went 72, 71 or something, which was definitely, which in a lot of US Open qualifiers, it just really varies on the site. Some of them are very low, the qualifiers. This one, it was just really windy. And so scores were definitely pretty tough out there.
How did you celebrate that night when you got done and you realized what you had just accomplished? I'm sure, I don't know if your family was out there with you, your mom and dad, your sister. I don't know who was there, but how did you celebrate?
It was so cool. So my uncle was actually on the bag for me the whole qualifier. He caddies for me and stuff. So then he actually caddied for me in the US Open as well. And him and I are super close. So that was just such a special moment to be able to share it with him. And then my dad was out there watching, my mom and then my sister was at practice and then realized kind of how I was doing. So she was at her high school practice and then drove out and watched me finish like the last hole or something. So, and then I think we all went to dinner afterwards. I was just still on a high, nothing had sunk in, even the next day. So it's one of those crazy moments in sports where, you dream of doing it all your life. So it was amazing.
What a great memory for not just you, but for your family. And like you said, your family's been all about the golf. I watched a video today online of you and your sister hitting balls in the basement. So this just brings me back to when I was a kid with hockey pucks and tennis balls, wrecking windows and garage doors in Burnsville growing up. So clearly you're a stud golfer in high school. You're going to have options, right? You're going to have choices to make with where you end up golfing. Take me through that process as you made the choice to eventually become a Golden Gopher.
Yeah, I get asked about that a lot. Just, was Minnesota always your dream school? And actually, for me, I actually was really wanting to go south and play south for a while. Just get some warmer weather. And then as you know, I was recruited during COVID, so definitely like a different time as well, trying to visit schools, and official visits weren't even a thing, so you're kind of just navigating that whole process. And then when it kind of came down to it, it was really important for me to be close to family. And my thought process was I've been able to play well and not mind necessarily the winters we have here. We travel a lot in college golf anyway, so for me it was really important to stay home, and I've never regretted that decision. I absolutely love it here. I've had a really, really cool experience, just amazing teammates, amazing coaches. My head coach now, Matt Higgins, is genuinely like another dad to me. And then obviously being able to be close to my family, for them to come out and be able to watch tournaments, it's just, I've never regretted it. I absolutely love it here.
Well, clearly you're close with your sister Reese, and watching that video of your family, it's so cool. How did she end up here, and how special has it been to have you two together? I work with the Wild, as I mentioned earlier, and Marcus and Nick Foligno are now teammates for the first time at the end of Nick's career, and just seeing their emotion of playing together, of practicing together, of hanging out after being on different teams for years. I look at you two and feel like it's almost kind of similar. She was in high school, you were starting your career at the college level. So here she is. What's that been like?
Kind of like you mentioned with them, I'm sure it's so special. For us, it's just absolutely amazing. We're basically best friends, so it's so fun being able to share that with her. And for her, she would say she's actually always known she wanted to stay close to home, and it was never really in the back of her mind that we needed to play at the same school. We always thought it would be cool, a really cool opportunity. And then kind of when it came down to it, and she chose to come here too, I couldn't have been more excited for her. And it's been so fun, and it's especially the non-golf memories that I'll take away the most, just being able to go on trips, like our trips with her. And we often room together on the road. That's so fun. And just, I think we definitely bring a fun level to the team too, having sibling dynamic. Sometimes we like to joke that we're an old married couple. We kind of bicker sometimes, and so I think they find it entertaining too. So it's been a really fun dynamic, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Really cool that Reese is there, and you're both playing Division I golf. I can't imagine how proud your parents are. And it's fitting that, I kind of had this week pigeonholed to be a little bit of a Masters preview. I know this is normally a hockey podcast. Wooden Sticks is kind of a hockey term, although most golfers know that when you hear sticks, you think of golf as well. And so many hockey players play golf. Matt Boldy is a superstar for the Minnesota Wild. The guy is an amazing golfer. He's a +4, I believe, on the handicap scale. So he's that good. So my next question is going to be about the heaven we call Augusta National, because for anyone that's watched golf, anyone that knows a thing about golf, the first tournament everybody thinks about is the Masters, which is upon us this week. And you got to play in the Augusta National Women's Am. And this has become a really, really big deal. ESPN, the Golf Channel, like this is front and center, superstar power on that TV. How did you qualify, and what was it like stepping on those grounds?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, obviously it's like Masters week, and then the week before, they have a women's event there, and it's a women's amateur event. So right now there's no women's professional event at Augusta, but it's for women am. So a lot of them are college players, and to get in, it's mostly based on a ranking system called WAGR, World Amateur Golf Rankings. And so kind of just normally your college season and like tournaments you play throughout the summer dictate your ranking, and so it's the top 30 amateurs in the US, and then top 30 amateurs in internationally, and then there's a couple of picks based off the winner of USAM or things like that. So so I was able to play in it last year, and it was just, it was incredible. As everyone knows, that's where it's the mecca of golf, really. And so it was so surreal. I was able to play it with a member the couple days before the tournament started, and then I played it during the tournament in the practice round. So it was so cool.
Now I got to tell people that are listening to the show here today, If you've been to Augusta, you understand this. If you haven't, this is the best way I can describe it. I went to the 2008 Masters, so we're going back a few years, and I always watched it even as a little kid. And I always thought, well, there's no way. It looks so good on TV. It looks just magical on the television, but there's no way in person it looks this good. And so I got there, and I got there for a Wednesday practice run, and I walked the entire 18 holes, and I was blown away. It was nicer in person than it was on the TV. And now as I explain it to people, I said, if you closed your eyes and if you believe in heaven and you thought there was a golf course in heaven, this is exactly what it would look like. Can you try to put into words when you first stepped on those grounds, what it looked like to you, an avid golfer? Because it's just, in my eyes, that's the nicest piece of property I've ever been on.
Oh, it was incredible. I'd actually been there when I was a little bit younger. I played in the drive, chip, and putt out there.
No way.
Yeah. So I've been on the grounds before, but I've never actually played the golf course fully. So that was, being able to step out there on the first tee was unbelievable. There were maybe 4 or 5 groups of us out there that whole day. It was just so surreal. And I'm even nervous. I'm just playing with the member, and I'm nervous stepping on that first tee.
Yes.
And it was so cool.
Well, it's funny. I was flying home commercial from Detroit this past weekend, and Delta has that cool option where you can watch live TV. And so it's early in the morning on a Sunday. I've got an hour-and-a-half flight. I want to watch something. So I pop on the Golf Channel, and they're showing drive, chip, and putt. And, there's been some unbelievable players that have, Akshay Bhatia is one of the sneaky picks this week at the Masters. When he was a kid, he played in this thing. Bella, love watching the kids play the game. And there was a 7-year-old girl this year that hit this 165-yard drive, which, again, for all of us that are fully grown, okay, 165 yards, not a big deal. She's 7 years old. And I'm like, she had this big smile on her face, and her dad gave her this hug. And I'm like, I'm a father of 3 girls. I'm like, this is to me what it's all about. And I mean, I had no idea you had done that. And that had to be really cool for your family as well.
Oh yeah, it was so special. I think probably if I had to describe something for the listeners that maybe haven't been out there yet to the Masters, one of the biggest differences from in person or from on TV that it is in person is it's actually really hilly. It's really undulated. Hole 10 is, I would say, basically a ski slope down the hill. And people don't necessarily realize that when it's on TV. It looks somewhat undulated, but like fairly flat. And that's just not that way at all, especially down Amen Corner. It's the undulations around the greens and getting above the pin on 12 or 13. People don't realize what that looks like in person versus on TV. I would say those are some of the biggest differences.
It is. It's a hard walk. And I know Colin Morikawa is dealing with a back this week, and he's normally going to be one of the favorites any year in the Masters. But I'm telling you, and Tiger Woods these last few years when he was dealing with issues with his back, the TV does not do it justice. I am telling you right now, walking 18 holes at that golf course is like walking 18 holes for 4 hours on a Stairmaster. Like there are some really, I love that you said ski slope, because there are some, you just can't see on TV how steep the incline is. Number 9 to me is amazing. And it's like, if you get on the wrong side of that hole, you're done. You mentioned 10, there are some crazy hills there. So as you look at this year's edition of the Masters, and maybe give us a player that might be in your eyes the most likely to win. And maybe if you're just looking for a cool story, like I like looking at sports sometimes like I look at a great sports movie, where if we could just have a Sunday where this particular golfer rises up and does it, maybe a dream scenario, and maybe your best player to win it if it's someone more formful.
Yeah. So for me, I actually would say I think it would be really cool if Rory went back to back. I think that would be a really just amazing win for sure. I think that would be crazy. That would be like a movie. But and what's funny for me is I was never a huge Rory fan, and I've heard good things, but I was never like, some people are really like just think he's awesome. And I was like, oh, he's a good golfer, but that's all I knew. And last year when I was playing Augusta with the member, he was actually one of the groups out there, and I got to meet him, and he was just one of the most genuine people I'd ever met. And went out of his way, obviously, just to have a couple minute conversation with me. And it was just, and this was obviously right before he won. This was like the 2 weeks before we won Augusta. So it was actually incredible just how nice he was to take the time and have a conversation with me. And so now I'm a big Rory fan. So I was rooting for him big last year. So I'm hoping the mojo keeps going this year.
Well, have you seen the documentary on Netflix about that win last year?
I actually have not.
Okay, I'll tell you this, and maybe I'm just an old soul and I get choked up easier than I should, but I watched it, and like you, I always respected Rory, thought he was a great golfer, but I was more of a Justin Thomas guy. I loved other golfers. Nothing against Rory. I never cheered against him except at the Ryder Cup, but I watched this documentary, Bella, and I got choked up 2 or 3 times because you talk about the roller coaster and dealing with those emotions within a round. And all of us know the backstory, right? Like, this was the career Grand Slam. This was the one he always wanted. He has had his heart broke there so many times. To hear it in his words and to see it play out the way it did, where he had it, he lost it, and it looked like he had it, then he lost it, and then he finally got it. I dare you to watch that and not get a little emotional. And now that you've met him leading into that particular event, I think you'll have a different way of taking it in than most of us mere mortals. And I love hearing that, because when you see him interviewed, he is so real. He doesn't deal in cliches. And as a sports reporter, I love when guys like can actually tell the truth and not try to like can their answers. And Rory's always been that guy. So I can't believe you met him. And the fact that he won tells me that you're clearly good luck. So maybe he'll do it again.
Hopefully that would be a pretty cool week this week for him.
Well, your insight's fantastic. I know you're playing today. You're actually at the clubhouse right now, getting ready to go out and do some practicing with the Gophers, play a little golf. Before I let you go, it's going to take like 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to get to know you. At the end of these podcast interviews, we do the hat trick hot seat. 3 quick questions as maybe fans get to know you a little bit off the golf course. This has been so much fun. Okay, we're going to start with an easy one. If you could go to one concert in the next 12 months, the next calendar year, and it doesn't have to be a concert that's scheduled. It just has to be somebody that's still out there putting concerts on. What's one on your bucket list that you'd like to see?
Well, okay, for me, I'm a huge country fan. That is most of what I listen to. I love it. I think it's just such a vibe in the summer. On being in Minnesota, you're either on the golf course, on the lake, and country music is always just a really fun vibe. So for me, probably Morgan Wallen or Chris Stapleton. And I'm actually going to see Chris Stapleton in Nashville in May. So I would say probably those two. I'm not even a huge concert person, but those two I really want to see.
I think Morgan Wallen's in town this weekend, and you're going to Nashville to see Stapleton, which I know is a really big deal. Great picks. I like all kinds of music, but my country guy is Kenny Chesney, and I'm going to see him in Vegas at the Sphere for the second straight summer. And when I think of summertime, flip-flops, and just chilling, listening to country music, Kenny's the guy I think about. So we have that in common a little bit, because I think country music, especially living here in the cornfields of Minnesota, is kind of a thing. But those are great picks. Love that. Next question will be your favorite restaurant in or around Dinkytown. So around the campus. I don't even care if it's Chipotle, but I want to know if you're going to get a bite to eat after playing golf today and it's around the U of M, where are you headed?
Okay, I would say I'm not a picky person when it comes to food. I love a good Chipotle or a crisp and green. Sounds perfect to me. But if I had to go somewhere really nice around Minneapolis area, it's in North Loop. It's called Porzana. It is so good. I think it's technically an Argentinian steakhouse or something like that.
I've been there.
Isn't it good?
Here's the deal. I've been there once, and I'm a foodie. and clearly I like food. If you can, I know the listeners aren't watching, but most of them know me. So here's the deal. We were trying to get in there for a double date. We could not get in. It was always booked up. So we did what old people do. We took like a 5:00 reservation on a Friday night. And I had no idea what this restaurant was all about. All I know is I'm eating dinner at 5:00 and we're standing in this line because the restaurant literally opens and all these people are flooding in. And so I already was skeptical, Bella. I got in there and I am telling you, it's one of the best 5 meals I've ever had. It is, I think, exactly how you described it. And it's so unique and it's so spectacular. I can't recommend it enough. And we had some beef, like this sliced steak thing that was kind of shareable. Oh my heavens. It's so good. So I don't know what your go-to is there, what you tried, but I don't think there's a bad item on the menu.
Absolutely. What's your favorite around the Twin Cities?
Okay. I've got, I'm a seafood guy. And so, I'm going to migrate to like an Ocean Prime, Ocean Air downtown is one that when my daughters were younger on their Sweet 16, we took them to Ocean Air. And so I'm a lobster or crab leg guy. So I have to pick that one. I guess I'll go with that. But the thing that's sneaky about our metro area, there are some great restaurants in this town. And I'm even a guy that likes like Mancini's in St. Paul, old school supper club steakhouse. I'm a steak guy. I love Mancini's. Bar La Grassa. I don't know if you've ever been to Bar La Grassa, but it's a really cool place to go with like a group of people and share items. Any others that catch your eye?
Bar La Grassa is a really well liked one as well. I think, I also really like Red Rabbit. I feel like that's a good spot. That's a pretty good spot nearby. It's not far from campus as well. But I also love coffee. Like I could like trying different coffee shops. So for any coffee lovers out there and that are nearby the Twin Cities, Rise Bagels, RIES, is kind of, I think it's nearby Porzana as well, but it has some of the best coffee I've had. It's so good. So and it's kind of hidden a little bit too. So if you ever want to check out a new coffee shop, there you go.
I love it. Boy, this is great. We're getting great golf tips. We're getting great restaurant tips. And we're down to the very final question. And I don't even know. We're getting to know each other here. And I know when you bring your family out to Canterbury, we're going to be fast friends. But I'm a movieaholic. I see literally 2 or 3 movies a week. When I travel with the Wild, a lot of the folks I travel with tease me because they're going to the bar or restaurant, and I'm literally going to movies by myself, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, and I love doing it. I just saw Zendaya's new movie, very different movie, but Robert Pattinson, that's the guy, right? Interesting movie. I'm blanking on the name of it now. The Drama. It's called The Drama. But I want to focus in on golf movies because I think there are enough golf movies. And I think because you're in college at some point, I'm guessing either on a road trip or stuck at home in the snows, you've watched a golf movie or two. Do you have a go-to golf movie that you like to watch? And if you don't, I'm going to have to give you some recommendations.
Okay. I've watched most of the big golf movies. I would say my favorite is probably The Greatest Game Ever Played. Watched that a ton growing up.
Excellent.
And for those who don't know, it's about Francis Ouimet. I want to say early 1900s, but he won the U.S. Open as an amateur. And I think it just kind of opened up the world a little bit for amateur golf and just kind of people's viewpoints on it. But it was such a well-done movie, and it was definitely one of my favorites growing up, so I'd have to say that.
It's a great pick. There are probably 10 or 12 out there. The Legend of Bagger Vance with Matt Damon is terrific. Tin Cup is my go-to golf movie with Kevin Costner, way before your time. So I understand that it might not have been on your radar. There's a movie that came out a couple years ago, Bella, I believe it's called The Long Walk. And it's a true story. And I want to say it's down in Texas. And there were these underprivileged kids that couldn't afford to golf. And they were working. And I think the person in charge of this little area where they were like, almost like doing farm work, right? To hustle for a buck as teenagers, invited them out to play a little golf. And it ends up being this thing. And they end up being some pretty good golfers. So The Long Walk would be one I'd recommend. Tin Cup, old school, good fun. But your pick is excellent. And we are out of time. I took up 35 minutes. I have my clock management. I know you've got practice today, and I know you got to get out there. I could have gone on for 2 hours. We'll do it again, I promise. And give us a quick little synopsis of what's next for the Gophers and you here in the spring, and then we'll send you out to play.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of we're at crunch time right now for our season. We have one more regular season tournament left this year. We're playing Purdue this weekend. Then we have Big Tens in LA the next about a week and a half later, and then hopefully we'll make regional. So and then it's just kind of it's extra golf at that point. So we got 2 more that we're grinding out, but definitely crunch time here for the Gophers. So we're really excited. It's been a fun year.
Well, now we have a couple golfers to follow with you and your sister Reese. Is it LA Country Club where you're playing?
We're playing Oakmont Country Club in Glendale, California.
Yes.
Yeah, have you played it or heard of it?
No, I've heard of it, but I've not played it.
Is it good? Or
yeah.
Do you think it's good?
There's no bad courses in that area. That's why I asked about LA Country Club. There's a bevy of good courses. That's one of them. And now literally we have something to watch. So it's going to be great. I know you got to go practice, so you're ready for LA. Good luck against the Boilermakers this week, and can't wait to meet you and your family at Canterbury this summer. Bella, thank you for doing this today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
That is the great Bella McCauley, Minnesota Golf here for the Golden Gophers, and talking a little Masters, and of course a little bit of the story of where it all began. Wooden Sticks, that's what we do. I'll be back to put a bow on this week's edition of the show after a quick break. Stay tuned. Well, the kids say we chopped it up a little bit today, and my goodness, super impressed with Miss Bella McCauley. It couldn't have gone any better on our end. Just listening to her tell some fantastic stories. We got to figure out how she fell in love with the game of golf, some of the places she played. I love that we have that Southview connection. I'm in awe that she's played at Augusta. She met Rory McIlroy. Like, this kid's amazing. And so for all of us that love hockey and love this time of year, knowing that the Gophers are going to play Purdue this weekend and then go on and play to try to get to regionals out in LA, it'll give us something to follow. So I'm going to head to my social media accounts. I'm going to follow Gopher Women's Golf. I'm going to follow Bella, and then I'm going to watch online and see if I can't check that out, because what a fun time of year. And let's hope the Golden Gophers and Bella, along with her sister Reese, can make a little run here. But thank you to her. Thank you to Tammy Weiser, who works for us on the advertising side, an old dear friend of mine. And when I say old, she's a lot younger than me, but longtime friend back in the Fox Sports North days, into Bally Sports, into FanDuel, and here we are. She can't shake me. Tammy with an I is awesome. She helped facilitate that, along with Alex Haugen, our esteemed producer, who babysits LaPanta and Russo on a regular basis. Can you imagine? I mean, insufferable, but here he is. The guy's a gem. So both Tammy and Alex get extra kudos this week for helping me bump into Bella on the show today, because I just really enjoyed getting to know her a little bit. So the Wild finish out the regular season. By the time we record next week, we'll likely be in Dallas, ready for an epic series where I believe a cup contender will rise and maybe make a run. And I'm super excited, because it just might be our time here in the state of hockey. Thanks for listening. I'm Kevin Gorga. Again, find me at Gorgamatic21 on social media. Any recommendations you have, whether it's movies, restaurants, or more importantly, guests that you want on this show, we will make it happen. Take care. Comb your hair.